MVP.
Rangers do every day. It's always been that way for me. Always been a get better mentality every day, grow every day, be a better leader every day, be a better quarterback every day. And when that wrench do, I don't plan on missing no payments. So.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to 3 in the Keystone, episode 109. Adam Seltzer here alongside Al Ryan. Chris Guest will be along shortly. Al, you feeling refreshed? A week off? We're back.
I was hoping for some pomp tonight. Give me some pomp. Where are the streamers and the confetti and the fireworks?
The Phillies are just not allowing any of that.
I lost count of the episodes. When you were saying episode, I had no idea what number was about to come next.
I had to double check. Today to make sure we had it right. But we are on episode 109. How was vacation?
Vacation was good. You know, we were supposed to get a lot of rain and thunderstorms. We ended up getting like half, but it wasn't as bad as it was supposed to be. So we were able to get some beach days in, got some Wildwood boardwalk day in. Want to shout out Wally's Pizza. Casey got a nice slice from Wally's.
Not a Sam's or Max?
Not to be confused with Sam's or Max. Wally's is the new up and comer, dude.
How was it? Was it rave reviews?
Dude, I didn't try it. I was neck deep in Curly's fries, dude.
You didn't ask her how it was, at least?
No, when she came back with a box and she said, I got it from Wally's, I said, I'm out on that pizza.
Is she a rookie or she was just that hungry?
No, it was just, we needed something for Avery, and it was just right there. So I get why she got it.
Shout out Wally's.
Yeah, dude, Wally. Dude, I'm going to have him sponsor the pod. I got to reach out.
You ever see like those corner shops on the boardwalk that sell like ribs and stuff like that? I don't think they ever make a sale. Can you imagine eating ribs on the boardwalk?
The one dude was cutting the slab of lamb meat when I was
who's getting that on the boardwalk?
Dude, probably our partner Chris. Whenever he gets on, we can ask him about it. He's probably enjoyed a nice slab of boardwalk meat.
I don't think Chris is a big shore guy.
No, I don't either.
Yeah. But all right, we got to get into it, Al.
What first?
The Philadelphia Phillies.
All right. What do you got?
Before we started, I was thinking about this upstairs on my way upstairs before the podcast. And the first year of the podcast, right, we got the Phillies World Series. We get the Eagles Super Bowl. We had a really fun Sixer season with Harden. They were really good 3 seed. They played Boston the 7, etc. Are we just paying the price? We can't have good things?
Yeah, we're paying dues.
Which collapse do you think has been the toughest to watch? I think the Sixers is a distant third because they were obviously a 2 seed, 3 seed. Embiid gets hurt. There's a predictable fall. They end up in the play-in, etc. Then you have the Eagles and that disaster at the end of last year. And now you have the Philadelphia Phillies who have become unwatchable over the last 6 to 8 weeks, however long you want to take it back. Which one has been tougher for you?
I thought you were going to say one other one that you didn't say. I'm going to take last year's Phillies collapse. And
no, that's true.
That's the worst of the bunch because that was like we were already punching our tickets to the World Series as a franchise and as a fan base. I've never in my life, and I talked about it a lot last year, been so confident in a Philadelphia team to make it to a championship, game or series. And it was uncomfortable at the time, and it turned out to be right to have that discomfort because we saw them blow it to Arizona.
That's actually a great point. I forgot all about that. That was definitely the worst one because when we went up 2-0, we came back here and it was a lock. We were prepping for the Rangers or was it the Yankees? I don't remember who they played in the ALCS. But we were prepping for the World Series and talking about tickets and SeatGeek and Punch the Code 3 Keystone, all that good stuff, man. And that was an epic collapse. But the Eagles was really bad and really ugly, and now this is terrible. They got shut out again tonight, 5-0. I'm telling you, I know you were at football practice with your son. The guy that pitched tonight for the Marlins was throwing batting practice. He was throwing 90, 91 fastballs down the middle, and we popped up everything. These guys' asses are so tight. I don't know what's going on with the group.
Well, it looks like the same asses that we saw in the NLCS last year. And so my only hope, and the reason why I'm not completely out on this team like some people, Diversa, are, is because I'm hoping that the swoon that we saw in the NLCS is it's happening now instead. And so there's still a lot of time to right that ship.
It's a long-ass swoon, dude.
It's a long swoon. Well, last year's World Series champions, the Texas Rangers. Take a look at their August. Take a look at their September, right? Yeah. In August, they lost 8 in a row at one point. And that's right now, And then going into September, there was a stretch where they went 4-16 in 20 games. That's worse than what the Phillies are doing right now.
So I'm with you. I haven't sold all of my stock yet. We've seen this team turn it around. We've seen this team be one of the best teams. I don't want to say of all time. That's not the right way to put it. But put together a stretch of baseball that had them on pace to be one of the best teams of all time. They were 44-19.
Yep.
And they were killing everybody. And maybe this is just not, at the end of the day, 105, 110 win team, which they're on pace for. At the end of the day, you have to have a monster losing streak to come back to the pack. But there are definitely some glaring holes that have stepped up during this time that have made me, again, I have some stock left, but we've all sold a little bit of stock compared to where we were at the beginning of the year, I would have to imagine.
Yeah, but I mean, we knew it was – you're probably going to talk about some of these guys in a second, but just for instance, we knew Ranger Suarez wasn't what he was showing us to be in the first half of the season. Now, I'm very concerned about Ranger, given what he did prior to landing on the IL. I mean, hopefully, because of his injury history, you need a third starter in the playoffs.
I'm not concerned about Ranger. I'm not concerned because, I think this injury is very minor. I think they're monitoring innings with him. I think he may have had a little bit of a back spasm, but I'm not. It's not an arm injury. I do think he'll be fine. And at the end of the day, he's your number 3. So yes, you do need some starts out of him. But we've gone into the playoffs with Ranger being shaky the last few years, and he stepped up when it matters most. I have some guys here. I wanted to play the blame game with you to see if you had to pick out one guy to blame the most, and then we can maybe get into some other players that are a little bit more concerning to you. It doesn't even have to be a player. It could be a personnel as well. But who would you say you blame the most for what we're watching right now?
The most? That's a tough question. Oh man, you caught me off guard. The most. So probably you threw the softball out there saying personnel because you want me to potentially say Dave Dombrowski.
No, I'm just asking you
by not making a move. Look, there's a guy that I'm really down on, but I don't blame him the most, and it's Bryson Stott. I mean, how do you not start there? He forgot how to hit all over again. He's hitting 235. I think he had something like 3 hits in a 10-game stretch or something like that. He's just really giving us absolutely nothing he's an easy out. I mean, he's at the point now where I believe Johan Rojas has a higher batting average than him, if I'm not mistaken, which, not to shit on Rojas, but you always looked at Rojas as the guy who was, 9th man in the lineup, potentially the guy that everybody else is hitting. So it's okay because of his glove. But for Stott to also be giving us, easy out in the lineup, that's not good for a guy that we thought could potentially be hitting 300 this year.
Yeah, so it's in the second half of the season, Stott 222 with a 568 OPS, only 3 RBIs in the second half since the All-Star break. I cheated on my answer, and since I made up the question, I can do it. I put the Water Boys, the guys who I don't know what they call themselves, but Bryson Stott, Brandon Marsh.
Yeah, the daycare.
To me, daycare, exactly. Since the All-Star break, Brandon Marsh 149 with a 485 OPS. He has struck out in almost 40% of his at-bats this season. And you take a guy, these are 2 guys in your lineup that last year were so steady. They weren't great. They weren't the guys, they weren't Harper when he gets hot. They weren't Schwarber when he gets hot, or even a Bohm. But these were 2 guys in your lineup that were just steady figures that, hit that 270, 280 number and were contributors across the board. And this year, like you said, they've become automatic outs. Yep. Bryson Stott can't hit the fastball again. He swings at these pitches that are in off the plate. Brandon Marsh, not only does he strike out a ton, he strikes out looking a ton. He's just standing up there taking strikes. And if you have those two as automatic outs in your lineup, you mentioned Rojas or whoever they have playing center field, in that given day, especially now that Hayes is hurt, that's an out. JT's kind of washed, dude. You're going to get what you're going to get from him at this point in his career. He doesn't have a ton left. So now your lineup is looking shaky, and Trey Turner is another guy who is giving you nothing. He looks terrible. Yeah. So how are you supposed to win games when you have guys who can't hit? Trey Turner, 176 with a 483 OPS and 4 extra base hits in his last 21 games. And if you add tonight, he didn't have any hits tonight either, and he had another error shortstop.
Yeah, he's actually the guy that I want to blame the most. But I think for me, that's more because of the expectation when we sign him to a massive contract.
Right. Expectations is everything, right?
Yeah. So he's the guy that I want to blame the most. There's another guy that it's hard to blame this guy the most because of where he plays, but Jose Alvarado is awful. I'm sick of him, dude. Whenever I see him enter the game, I'm thinking to myself, how many runs is he going to give up this time? He has a 7.90 ERA since the month of July started. What are we doing with him? What can we trust him at this point? I feel like hitters have just caught up to his stuff. They know what's coming. They see the ball better, and they're hitting the ball. They're making contact.
Yeah, and I think those. I was having a conversation today with somebody. Those are the 3 guys that I'm concerned about the most, and that's Brandon Marsh, Bryson Stott, Jose Alvarado, because those are 3 guys in the postseason we need to contribute. And I mean, Jose, it's not like his velocity's down where you can say, oh, maybe he's injured. He's giving up home runs to left-handed hitters, which never happens. I don't know. The question is, I don't know what happened to these guys along the way. And now you're seeing Kerkering struggle a little bit, Hoffman struggle a little bit. And again, I think those guys may bounce back, but there's a lot of wear and tear on some of these arms at this point in the year. But Alvarado is definitely the one that scares you the most.
Yeah, I was just going to say there's 2 reasons why Alvarado's not more on the hot seat, and it's Jeff Hoffman and Matt Strahm. If it wasn't for those 2 guys stepping up the way they have this season, then Alvarado would be a lot more under the on the hot seat, so to speak. But yeah, no, I'm with you. You said it correctly. We need those guys. It's at the point with Stott too that he's platooning with Sosa, and I'm happier when I see Sosa in the lineup.
Yeah, Sosa's been a producer all year. Al, if I asked you what bullpen arm has given up 1 run in the last 8 innings for the with a 9-2 K to walk ratio and 2 saves, who would you say?
I would have said Hoffman, but I know Hoffman's not the right answer. Probably Jose Ruiz.
How about Sir Anthony Dominguez in Baltimore? Yeah, so let's give that guy up, and then he goes on to become the Baltimore Orioles closer.
Yeah, but they took all of our shit. They just scraped all the crap off the bottom of the Phillies cleats.
Oh, dude, I've always had a soft spot for Dominguez.
We all have, but come on, at some point, you gotta just cut ties, man.
Here he is. My bad, guest. I forgot to say in the invite. Guest, trivia question before we open it up. What relief pitcher, last 8 innings, 1 earned run, 9-2 K to walk ratio, 2 saves?
Relief pitcher that had what again?
1 run in his last 8 innings, 9-2 K to walk ratio, 2 saves.
Dominguez.
Sir Anthony Dominguez is right. Any other thoughts on that?
That's all Chris came on for. All right, dude. See you later.
I don't have any thoughts on the Phillies. I didn't even watch the game tonight. I just saw that they couldn't score against Bozo the Clown and 2 other bullpen guys.
Guess this guy for the Marlins was throwing BP. He was throwing 91-mile-an-hour fastballs. They couldn't touch him.
Well, that's how Ryan Nelson was the other night. He did the same exact thing. He had a fastball and a cutter, and he threw 2 sliders. He had fastball, cutter, and they couldn't hit him.
Are you selling all your stock? Have you sold?
I can't say I've sold all the stock, but I mean, we said before, I'm getting on that point where I get the Eagles 2023 Eagles vibes.
The other thing I asked Al is which collapse has been worse to watch between the Eagles.
Oh, the Phillies is worse. It's every day. What do you mean? You got to watch it every day.
But the Eagles did have a conclusive ending at this point. We haven't seen the conclusion.
No, but dude, it's the math. It's 6 times a week versus once.
Yeah. You're not wrong. It's been brutal.
It's terrible. And baseball's a more boring sport than like. Listen, I'm a huge football guy. I can still watch the Eagles, even struggling. I can still watch them and say, "Hey, I'm watching a football game, whatever." Baseball, if your team sucks, is brutal to watch. It's terrible.
So there's one name who hasn't come up yet in this conversation tonight, and that's Rob Thompson, who we have all been a bit negative on. And listen, I'm not going to blame Rob Thompson for this swoon because he's not out on the field. It's the one sport where your players have to hit, they have to pitch. But at some point, you got to do something. And it doesn't seem like he's done anything to spark up this locker room at all. Now, we're not in there. I can't say that we are. But this is the point where being a player's manager may come back to hurt you because at some point you got to put some heat on these guys. Am I wrong about that?
You're 100% right. And you can still be a player manager or a player coach and hold people accountable and have discipline. So I don't want to hear, well, the players love them and it's because they let them be themselves and they let them be what's the phrase you talk about, Al? Unapologetically me. They let me be unapologetically me. Guess what? Damn all that. All right. You're a professional. Okay. You're getting paid millions of dollars. Nobody is sitting up there and paying the money that they pay for those seats and those tickets, especially when it's a hot team. Well, not hot, but a winning team, and the prices are higher than they are if they were a losing team. And you're sending a family of 4, a family of 5, whatever it is, or you're on a date and you got to get food and drinks. No one's paying all that money to watch 4 hits off of nobody's.
Chris,
how much is it to take if you took the family to the Phillies game?
Oh, it's about 1-2 damn much, Chris. It's a lot of money, man.
Okay.
The tickets, the parking, and then the food, the ice cream, the beverages, whatever you're getting.
That just be 4 hits.
Seriously, for a family of 5, we're spending $200 minimum.
Easy.
And that's what doing like the poor man family of like we'll buy one soda and everyone will pass that soda.
Sharing a hot dog and shit.
I sold my ticket tonight for $150, and I might send that guy a refund.
Dude, that's gross.
But Chris, let me ask you this:
gross,
you missed
man.
it. What do you think Rangers fans were saying last year when the Rangers lost 8 straight in August?
Well,
they won 4 of 20 games in August and September.
And that's what I was going to say. That's why I'm not selling all my stock because bottom line is, especially right now, there's a lot of teams that aren't doing great. I mean, we're still as bad as we've been. We're still within a game or whatever, a game and a half of the best record in baseball. So we could have been running away with this like Smarty Jones status, but we're not, and nobody is. And there's a reason for that. Baseball is a game of failure, and that's not just for the bad teams. It's for the good teams too. You know, we saw, I mean, even the Braves, who we know have been battled with injuries and things like that. But I mean, they have really struggled to the point where they've, at one point in time, I don't know if they still have, I haven't checked the standings, but they fell out of second place and the Mets passed them. The Orioles had a tough stretch this year at one point. The Yankees had an awful stretch at one point. So it happens, it's happening, but man, it's like I said, baseball, when your squad blows, it's unwatchable. You're watching a 2.5-hour game to see literally nothing happen. Yeah. Don't ever talk to me about soccer again.
We're still 6.5 up on the Braves, and the Braves are in the 3rd spot in the wild card. They have a 1-game lead over the Mets.
But the thing you also have to be careful of is you want to be of one of the top 2 records in the National League, so you get that bye in the first round. And right now, the Brewers are right behind the Phillies. They're only 2 games back going into tonight. So that's.
Do we want to buy? Do we want to buy at this point? You want that team to have rest? You want that team to have days where they're not getting at bats?
Well, I'm watching them play every day, and it ain't helping.
That's true, but I'm just saying, like, that's normally when the rush shows up when you haven't had an at bat in a couple of days. You want?
Look, October's a long way away, and baseball is the one sport where you can turn around. Listen, you talked about the Rangers. How about, again, I reference this podcast all the time. We did a podcast in 2022 at the end of the year about how trash the Phillies were, and then next week they got hot and they would go to the World Series.
Yeah.
So it can turn at any moment, especially in baseball.
guys, I'm just hoping that they've hit a patch where, like the Sixers would hit, where it's February, they're on the road, they don't care, they just want to get to April and get to the playoffs and get the games that mean something, and they're dogging it. I'm hoping that's all I have left, because if not, I don't know what to tell you.
But the difference is, because I hear you, and I'm hoping it's the dog days as well. Is basketball, it's one thing. Like, you can come out and not give any effort because you don't really care, and you're going to lose. If you're at bat in a baseball game, you're not trying to make outs on purpose, no matter how lack of effort you're going to give it. You're still going to try and get a hit. And these guys haven't got hits in weeks, some of these guys.
I think they said since June 12th, now they're 22-30.
When does that? I marked the turning point that game before the All-Star break when the A's drubbed them 18-3. Like, that seemed to be the turning point.
I don't know, man. That might have been before. It might have been since they came back from London.
That's what somebody else said. Somebody else said London.
But
they still let the Dodgers sweep after that. They won a couple other series after that.
They did.
So
I don't know, man. I'm 50-50. Part of me is saying that this team is about to have an epic collapse, and the other part of me is saying just chill out. It's August 13th, and like you said, when it comes to the playoffs, they're going to turn on again. I mean, I heard I forget who it was that said that they tried to do the song thing. Enough with the songs. All right, enough with the songs. If you're relying on songs to get you going, you got to look yourself in the mirror and find something else. Find a new stick. I mean, it's enough.
What about standing goes? You want to standing
goes?
Yeah,
what are we doing for everybody? You're gonna go show go to the game tomorrow. Just
whole lineup.
Don't even sit. Just like Trocadero. Just stand up the whole time and clap the whole game.
Let me be clear on my stance, though. I'm buying low because there's still a month and a half of baseball left, and I have confidence that this team just, at the end of the day, has too much talent to collapse this mightily. And guess what? If they do collapse and they end up in the third seed, or they end up, God forbid, in the wild card, or even worse, out of the playoffs, we won't see Rob Thompson next year.
If that happens, then I'm not willing to go that far of a plummet where they're going to just not make the playoffs. I think they'll still make the playoffs, but I mean, it's scary what we're seeing, man. And you get to the schedule, you look at the schedule, and you say to yourself, all right, well, damn all that. You're on the road. You're playing good teams. Arizona's got a boner for the Phillies. They really do. They played our, speaking of songs, they played our songs this weekend in their stadium and doing the whole, why am I going blank right now? They're trolling. They were trolling big time. And they got us. They won 3 or 4. But my thing is, why troll when you won originally? Like, what are you trolling for? I can understand if they were trying to say we're better now, and
same reason we do the tomahawk chop.
Yeah, and dude, we said it before. People love to beat Philly, man. People love to shut us up. And
for what? What do we do? We don't win nothing.
We're the loudest and most arrogant fans in the country, man. As portrayed by national media.
Yeah, there you go.
If you're an Arizona fan, you don't really know how big of an asshole Boston fans are or New York fans are, because that's us. That's Philly.
Right. Yeah, they just go by what the talking heads say. I just, you look at the schedule, you see those games, you're like, all right, they're going to come home. They got Miami. They got some bad teams coming up. And tonight they get shut out by the Marlins and by a guy who Seltzer, I give you more knowledge of, baseball than I have. I don't know who this guy is.
Chris, I couldn't. There was 3 or 4 guys in the lineup I never heard of.
I'll tell you who's the man, though. Jake Berger. He's the man.
He's kind of fast for a hefty fella.
Yeah, he's got some wheels, dude.
He could truck.
They had a guy hitting in the cleanup spot named Jonah Bride. Never heard of him in my life.
Now the kid that got Edwards is a big prospect.
Yeah, he's been good. Otto Lopez. Kyle Stowers,
Brian De La Cruz,
Derek Hill. These guys are. I don't know who they are.
I'm surprised De La Cruz didn't get traded.
Kristen Pache.
Kristen, that's your boy.
Mike,
you love him. You love Pache.
Fuck, bad since we got rid of him.
Edwards was the kid that had the cycle in his first game, wasn't it?
Yeah, Edwards is a highly thought of guy.
Yeah.
But all right, so listen, I mean, we're all not completely selling, but one thing I will tell you that if they don't turn it around and this season ends in the same route that we're going down now, I think Mr. Middleton is going to raise some hell this offseason because he has a lot of money invested in that team. And to have results such as what we're talking about, I think he'd have an issue with that.
And I do too, and he should. And one more thing I want to say before we wrap it up. The city, for whatever I get, he's a fun dude, whatever. The love affair of Brandon Marsh got to chill.
We talked about it. We talked about how bad
he is not. He's a jag. He's a jag.
Below a jag.
He can. I don't know if I say below a jag, but he's a jag. He's a dude that you could throw out there, whatever. But he should not be an everyday starter for your team if you're going to look to be a legitimate contender for a title.
He can be if the top of your lineup is all hitting and mashing, but they're not. So now he's getting exposed more so right now.
Yeah, I just don't think
he's the other day.
I know. I don't know what he was doing in that 5-hole. I went Stotts in the 5-hole too.
Stott was in the 5-hole today. I don't understand that.
I don't get that either.
They both have had stats this year that show that when they've been put in that spot, they're not good. They're they're batting sub 200, and he continues to put them in these spots because you know what? Well, he's going to get out of it. He's going to get out of it. I believe in him. He's going to get out of it. That's cute for a week or two. It ain't cute when it's been a whole friggin' another thing. Real Muto. I've never been big on Real Muto. Well, I shouldn't say that. I haven't been big on him for the last year or so, and he continues to show his digression at the plate.
He's getting washed.
The guy, I look when you put the game on, it says 7 home runs and 20 RBIs for the last month and a half.
Yeah, he's over the hill.
So listen, we'll wrap with this. All the bitching and complaining, and one name that did not come up is Mr. Nick Castellanos. So shout out to Nick for surviving.
Put him in there. Why not?
He's been okay. He's been better than the other guys since May. All right, listen, before we move on to segment 2, I did want to touch a little bit on the Olympic basketball. And I want to talk about Embiid a little bit as well. But before we do, I just want to talk about the semifinal game, the championship game. How cool was it just to watch LeBron James, Kevin Durant, Steph Curry all playing on the same basketball team?
Yeah.
I thought it was fucking awesome.
Yeah, that was cool. I agree.
No, and I mean, I've been, when we've been texting and stuff, and if you're a hoop head, the tournament was dope, man. It was a lot of pros on different teams. But from a U.S. perspective, yeah, those 3 dudes especially, like I said, imagine having Steph Curry for a whole season with your team. That weapon. Can't imagine.
So I want to make this statement. I want to make it very clear because I've teeter-tottered a lot on this topic. I've not sold my Philly stock. I've sold my Joel Embiid stock. I have no Joel Embiid stock left in my portfolio. The portfolio is empty of Joel Embiid stock. Empty.
Guest left. Guest is out.
Guest has walked off.
This guy won a gold medal. Let him enjoy it.
That's
all
right,
right.
Chris. Let me say this as well, Chris. I'm still rooting for him. I want to be wrong. Why am I not? I want to be wrong, but my eyes have seen enough to know that at this point it's over.
What's over?
Statement on Joel Embiid.
Huh?
That's my statement on Joel Embiid.
What's over?
He's not winning a championship.
He just won a gold medal.
Ever. Congratulations to him. So did Tyrese Halliburton and Jason Tatum and all those guys.
Bam.
And he had a nice game against Serbia. He did his job.
He had a really nice game.
But you know what I watched? And again, I understand they're the elite of the elite, but we talked about it. Curry, Durant, LeBron. You saw them take it to that next level when they had to. And Joel doesn't have that level. He still can't rebound. He looks slower than ever. His injuries have taken his toll on him. He's not the same guy he was 4 years ago, 3 years ago at this point. He doesn't have that next gear to lead a team to a championship. And I know, again, Curry, LeBron, Durant, they're some of the greatest players of all time, but those are the guys that win finals. And he can't get to that level.
He's not running up and down with who? Devin Booker, LeBron, Steph Curry, Anthony Edwards. Is that what?
Yes, he played like
about?
8 minutes in the gold medal game. So let's not act like he was a big role in the gold medal game.
No, but I understand that. But like, are we really going to compare him running around or running up and down with those guys?
Yes. What does the eye test tell you though when you just see him on the floor versus when those guys are?
I said to you guys before, he's not. I don't think he's an Olympic player. But
because that's a playoff atmosphere. That's why.
But the Olympic basketball is a whole different dynamic than the NBA. You know that. The officiating is different. The court's smaller. The game is different. There's guys we've seen that have been trash in the NBA and thrived in the Olympics and vice versa. It's a different dynamic, and he showed it in pockets of being decent in those dynamics. More not than yes. I admit that, and I agree with that. But to say that he's like, I can't. I don't know why you would think that the guy, like. We've already said you're not going to win a title, Jokic aside, because Jokic is a different breed. In the Olympics or the NBA playoffs, you're not seeing bigs dominate anybody.
But you just said last week that Victor Wembanyama is going to be the best player of all time. So he's not a team, but
he's a big ass dude. That don't mean he's a big. He can play.
Embiid, you can say the same thing. Embiid is a big ass dude.
Embiid can guard stuff. Wembanyama can play anywhere on the court. Embiid can't do that.
Embiid's got guard skills to a point.
Come on. Stop.
Not like Wembanyama does, but come on.
AD was not good in the Olympics. Bam wasn't that great in the Olympics. In fact, I thought Bam was better when they played him at the 4 spot than he was at the 5 spot. And he has developed a little corner 3, which is nice. But let's not again. It's hard, and some of it's not their fault as bigs. I'm not putting it on like again. I'm not trying to defend him and saying like he was a top 2 player for this team. He wasn't. But to sit here and act like he won the Olympic gold medal, it was awesome to watch. But Embiid, man, he sucked. He was just like that's just hater energy. Man.
I don't think he sucked. I thought he had 2 nice games. But what I saw was even the first half of Serbia and the gold medal game is these all-stars, these guys who are going to be championship level players are coming out and ready to go to the next level. And Joel still isn't sure if he can get there. You can see it in the way he plays.
In the second half, there was a period of time where he took over that game.
Serbia or France?
In Serbia, the semifinals.
He had a very good stretch in that game.
So, and that was against everybody's boy. Okay, and you know what? I'm not a big Durant fan as far as a person. I like him as a player and all, but shout out to him on Twitter for telling everybody to get off Jokic's balls.
That's all.
Yeah.
I'm so tired of it. Like I get it. The guy's a good player, and he's done it on the Olympic stage with a team that is. I think I saw they were like the 3rd or 4th ranked team in the world. The Serbians. They're a good team, but like I'm just so sick of. In the same way you guys find something to hate on Embiid about, other people find the same thing with Jokic, and they praise it all the time, over and over. And all this. It's just annoying. It's just tiring. So shout out to him for calling that out.
I'm not putting a lot of stock into anybody's performance in this gold medal run. It's because of what I've been saying to you guys in the text all along. Nothing about Team USA basketball impresses me, and nor should it.
No, that's Al. I love you, but that's a terrible take.
No, it's not, dude. How is it a terrible take? They have the best basketball players in the world. They have all time, literally top 10 of all time in the sport of basketball players on the court. And Serbia and France have guys that you don't even remember their names today.
Yeah, but you said a week and a half ago there's no way they're going to win a gold medal, and then now you want to say that there's no way they wouldn't win a gold medal.
Me saying they weren't going to win the gold medal, that was the hot take because of what I had saw from them in those the opening games in the pool play, how the dysfunction that they were showing on the court for minutes at a time because it didn't look like they had the chemistry to win. And I thought that teams like Serbia and France, and what your argument is that these international teams they're getting better, they're getting more competitive. And I was thinking, you know what, maybe they are getting better and more competitive. They've certainly shown it over the last few years. But when it comes to the Olympics, man, Team USA dominates, and to be impressed by them winning a gold medal is ridiculous. There's should do it. It's the expectation.
There's more. Yeah, no, of course. But that's just like saying in the World Cup about Argentina or France or Brazil. Like every year, that team or those teams are expected to be great, but you still got to do it. Like France hasn't won 4 or 5 straight World Cups. Brazil hasn't won, or Argentina hasn't won 4 or 5 straight World Cups. You still got to do it. And U.S. basketball has done it. And they have more pros in the Olympics for all these other teams. Like someone was telling me the other day, I don't watch USA Olympic basketball because it's just a bunch of pros beating up one another. I'm like, you ain't watched Olympic basketball in 30 years then. Because number one, every team has pros. Every single team, the Olympic basketball for men's is made up of pros on every country. Now, if it may not be NBA pros, but it's pros from Adriatic League, it's pros from Euro League, it's pros from this league, that league. There's nobody that's like, oh, well, I work in a graveyard and then I'm good at basketball and I play in the Olympics. It's not like any other sport. There's pros in the whole thing. With that said, there's more NBA pros than there's ever been in the Olympics for other teams. Canada, for a prime example, Canada has a really good NBA team, and they couldn't even medal. If you ask for that team right now on the Sixers, you would take that team in a New York minute.
That's because Jamal Murray went the tank.
Would you consider and would you ever compare Philip Petrusev, who started for Team Serbia?
Former Sixer.
Yeah, former Sixer. Would you consider him a legitimate NBA pro? Because he's part of that.
But that's what I'm saying. I'm saying they're all pros in some capacity. And yes, he is in the NBA. He is in the NBA.
Would you consider him you're going to compare him to having Devin Booker and KD?
But there was times in the Olympics in the past where those guys were literally working on farms before the Olympics and they played basketball.
That's fine. The rest of the world is still light years behind Team USA, man. They're light years behind.
Al, you're right about that. But I think the thing that you're not giving enough credit to, and we talk about this all the time on the NBA level, is like, even on bad teams, like dudes can get buckets, right? So you have a guy like Bogdan Bogdanovic on Serbia who in the NBA plays a role, but then they go to these Olympic teams and they're given the green light and the freedom where they're the second best player and they don't have to worry about, we talked about this with Paul Reed, if I make a mistake, I'm coming out. And sometimes that enables, we saw Korkmaz go off for his Olympic team all of a sudden, right? Not this year, a few years ago. He played tremendous in the Euros. And I think, is there a world in the NBA where Yabusele dunks on LeBron? Like, there's no chance in the NBA game he has the balls to even try that. But in the Olympics, these guys are so empowered for whatever reason, if it's the fact that they're freedom or they're playing for their country, that they play up a level. They do.
I'm not disagreeing with any of that, but it doesn't change the fact that the expectation for Team USA is to win a gold medal, and for them to not win a gold medal is them blowing it more than it is a team it'd be more on. It's more on Team USA to just do what they have to do than anything else.
You're right. I mean, Steve Kerr said it after the game if we win silver medal, it's a disappointment. It's a failure. That was an exact quote. But to say like you weren't entertained by those semifinals and finals games because you thought the outcome was determined already, I think that's not fair.
Well, being entertained and being impressed are two different things.
But did you think they were on the ropes against Serbia at any point?
Of course. And that's why I said I didn't think they were going to win the gold, because I thought at some point one of these teams, because they've gotten better, because they're not full of plumbers and farmers anymore, we're going to be able to hit the gas on them and catch them off guard. And it just didn't happen.
I hear. But let me ask you the important question. How much Embiid stock do you have left?
I gotta defend. I want to defend the world here for a second with that. So the Olympic Games, right? The Olympic tournament. America's won. I think it's 5 straight gold. I think it is.
Yeah, won every year except for
However, the second biggest tournament in the world is the FIBA World Cup. The United States has not won the FIBA World Cup since 2014. The last two champions were Spain, who's currently third in the world, in 2019, and Germany won last year, who's currently second in the world. And Germany beat Serbia and Spain beat Argentina. Argentina wasn't even in the conversation in the Olympics, and they've got a good team. Lithuania wasn't in the conversation in the Olympics, and they've got a good team. There's different. I talked about before. Even freaking Bahamas has a legit pro team. Like there's guys all over the world now. So is America the favorite still? Yes. It doesn't mean though that it's just that that they're going to just show up and win. They got to earn it. And this year, this team was really good, and they earned it against these guys.
I promise I'll give up after this. Guess where would you rank KD, LeBron, and Steph Curry in all-time hoops history players? Top 10, all three of them. Top 20, all three of them. Top 30.
You mean for basketball or for the Olympics?
For basketball.
You said LeBron, KD, and Steph?
And Steph. They're all in your top one.
Yeah, I told you. I said the team has 5 of the top 8 players in the world on this team.
So how can you be impressed?
Because it's still because
that's like
there's still talent they got to go against.
No, this is like you setting up the Little Tykes net and dunking over the Twins and being like, clap it up, guys.
No, because I was never good. I was never good.
All right,
these guys got pros all over the world. I got pros.
Let's wrap the segment. But I do want to give a shout out to LeBron, man. I know off the court his antics are terrible, but that guy at almost 40 years old doing what he's doing and basically being I want to say the best player on the team. He won MVP of the tournament. To be doing what he's doing at that age is absurd.
He was the clear top dog on that team. He was the leader of the yard.
100%.
He's an asshole. Move on.
What is up with the LeBron hate?
People don't like his off the court
stuff. I'm not talking about you out specifically. I'm just talking in general for people. I don't understand
him having a shoot with your offhand free throw competition just for him to then use his right hand and claim it's his offhand, and then after he wins the competition, crown himself. Dude, that's if I told you someone did that,
that is cringe.
Right, that's such a D-bag move, dude. Like he doesn't have to do that.
I would say the one thing I don't like about LeBron is the whole thing with Bronny and what they've done with Bronny and making him arguably now coming into this year probably one of the most hated players in the NBA because of the nepotism and because of putting this guy to getting a $8 million deal as a 55th pick or whatever it was in the draft. That never happens, and it's absurd, and it's literally clearly because of who he is. That's not cool. But as far as the player, as far as the man, as far as the philanthropist, as far as all the other stuff, I don't understand the hate. I never did. I don't get that.
He's just a nerd and a tryhard. All the stuff you just mentioned, I respect him for. Like being able to come into the league, be anointed from day one, and being able to live up to it. That's incredible. It's all the stuff like being asked how he likes a book and claiming he read a book and he didn't read the damn book.
How do you know he didn't read the book?
You ever see dude? I'll send you some clips. You never saw those clips where he's they ask him what his favorite part of the book is, and he just stutters and stumbles for 30 seconds. Well, I took a lot away from it.
He probably was working out. He probably was housing dudes, and he was all trying to catch his breath. Couldn't think about it.
Every picture, dude. It's in the locker room pregame. Every time he has a book open, it's on page 1. You ever see those memes? It's like who's LeBron's biggest enemy? Page 1 of a book.
That's like the best is when you remember when or did you hear when 50 Cent when he had the beef with Mayweather, and he's like $100,000 if he could read a whole Harry Potter book.
Yeah, it's a great video.
All right, let's move it along here. We're going to get into our NFL previews. We're going to continue.
Oh, thank God!
And if you notice, I got my shirt on tonight, boys.
What is that about?
What?
Raiders football.
What is that?
1960, baby. Al Davis.
Was that a gift?
Yeah.
You must have found that at
it was a freebie. Yeah. But we're going to AFC West tonight. And as always, we will start from the bottom based on the Vegas over-under for wins. And we are going to start this year with the Denver Broncos. Denver Broncos over-under is 5.5 wins. They were 8-9 last year, first year under Sean Payton. It was actually, believe it or not, the Broncos' 7th consecutive losing season. 26th in offense, 29th in defense. Out are all-pro safety Justin Simmons, wide receiver Jerry Jeudy, and most notably Russell Wilson. Al, let's start with you. What are your thoughts on the Denver Broncos?
Denver Broncos are bad. They have a bad offense. They have a bad defense, which normally their defense is kind of what kept them in the games for a while there. I remember, wasn't it 2 seasons ago where like there was all those weird Denver games where it was like 12-10 and that kind of stuff?
Yep.
They had awful scores those games.
Yeah, last season the defense finally kind of gave up on them and fell apart. They were 29th in yards allowed. I think this is going to be a real year of growing pains for the Denver Broncos. I really don't see who they're going to turn to on either side of the ball. They lost Jerry Jeudy, not that he ever really became anything for them. It definitely is going to be a boost in the locker room, I think, losing Russell Wilson, because I'm sure that had to be really difficult to deal with on the day-to-day if you were on that team. So that should probably provide a spark. It'll be interesting to see if there's a player who can step up and take that role of almost like a, let's turn this thing around kind of guy. I still don't see it happening this year, though. I don't like the Denver Broncos at all this year. They might be one of the worst teams in the league.
Shout out Chris Style in the chat. This guy always seems to pop in when we're talking AFC West, Patrick Mahomes, QB tiers. You got the radar going. What up, Chris? All right, I'll jump in on the Broncos. I'm not big on them either, but I am bullish on Sean Payton as a coach. And even though Russell Wilson had a really good year by the numbers last year, they couldn't wait to get rid of the guy. So to me, that shows that A, Sean Payton thinks he can do it without him, or B, like you said, Al, he was a major distraction in the locker room. Obviously, Bo Nix is probably going to be the starter opening day, him or Jarrett Stidham. They brought in a couple of D linemen to help with the run D. Patrick Surtain is still really good in the secondary. I got them over. I don't think they're going to be good, but I got them at 7 and 10 this year. I do think I kind of shadily like their running game. I think Javonte Williams could be 2 years off the ACL, could be decent, and I like the McLaughlin kid in the backfield. Again, Sean Payton won 8 with Russell Wilson last year. I don't see any reason for him to be 3 losses or 3 wins worse.
Yeah. I'm sorry, Seltzer.
5.5 is the number. I have them at 7 wins.
You had 7? Okay. Yeah. I knew the 5.5. I have them at 6. So I have them skimming over the over also. But I mean, that's not really saying much. 6 and 11 is trash. I think Bo Nix is going to ultimately end up being the starter from day one. I think that for Sean Payton to co-sign drafting him with their first round pick, I think that means that he's got this stamp of approval from the coach. And I think that's the guy. And he played pretty well the other day in their preseason game. Granted, it was preseason, but I mean, you've seen guys go in there and look like a complete dumpster fire. I mean, he did his thing. My boy though, Aldrick Estime, running back, 5th round, Notre Dame. I bet you he's going to have that job by the end of the year. Javonte Williams is going to probably get hurt. That dude's a big dude, big bruiser. Love him a lot. Hopefully nobody from our fantasy leagues listen. But anyway, yeah, 6 wins for them, for me. Their offensive line is really solid. The Bowles and McClinchy on the tackles, but I don't like their defense. I'm just looking at their depth chart. They got Surtain, and yeah, they got Surtain. I mean, I don't know. There's not really a lot going on over there.
Yeah. Was Bo Nix their oldest quarterback?
He might be. That's a great point. He might be. Let me see. How old is Stidham? Stidham is 28. So yeah, no, Stidham's older.
Yeah, Nix can't be 20. Sean Clifford's probably 29. I'll tell you that.
Yeah, is he on Denver?
No, he's still in Green Bay, right? He's got to be.
Yeah, for now, yeah.
All right, let's move on to the team that I'm donning here, the Las Vegas Raiders.
Did we give over unders? I didn't.
Oh yeah. I said over. I have them at 7 and 10. What do you have?
Yeah.
Oh boy, I got 3 and 14.
Woo!
Yeah, I think they're gonna be one of the worst teams in the league.
Chris I wouldn't love that. He's the worst team in the league.
Yep.
All right. So is that your best bet, Al? You going best bet?
Yeah. You can mark it down as my best bet.
Best bet.
Straight cash, homie. Straight.
Also, real quick, while it's on the page that I'm looking at, just in, Al's boy Tavon Austin has officially retired.
That's such an Al guy.
Very Al guy. Loved him.
All right. Vegas Raiders, 6.5 wins is the over-under in Vegas. 8 and 9 last year. They finished 5 and 4 under Antonio Pierce. Gardner Minshew, Aiden O'Connell will compete for the starting quarterback job. In is Brock Bowers, first-round pick out of Georgia at the tight end position. But I'll start here. The defense is actually where I'm a little bit excited for this team. Max Crosby, we know, is an animal on the edge, has been awesome. They signed Christian Wilkins from Miami. to solidify that defensive line, take some pressure. Jack Jones, I really like on the outside at cornerback. And even though they won't be starting them, they brought back 10 of their 11 starters from last year. The offense does have some things. They lose Josh Jacobs. I don't think it's as big of a loss as we're making it out to be. I think Zamir White will fill in decently. The weapons on the outside, we'll see. Devontae Adams is still there. Jacoby Myers is okay. Again, Bowers brings a little bit of a different element. They played really hard under Antonio Pierce. Again, I'll shout out Chris Style in the chat. Chris, that Christmas Day game against the Chiefs, they played their asses off. I think they would have beat them 14-10 or 14-12, something along those lines. We'll have some quarterback issues with O'Connell or Minshew. But let's not forget, Minshew won 8 or 9 games last year for Indianapolis. So I got them over. I don't think they're going to be great. I have them at 7 and 10 as well, but I think they'll go over that 6.5 number.
That Colts team is way better than this Raiders team, though.
Sure, but I need 7. I need 7 wins. I don't need a playoff spot.
Well, and you also said that, 10 of 11 starters on defense are coming back?
Yep.
Yeah, so last year they were 28th in the league in points against. So,
but what were they with Pierce? They were good with Pierce.
They were, but I don't know if that's a large enough sample size for me to think that they're just going to do that for a whole season. We'll see. I'm not big on this team. I'm very bearish on the Raiders this year. I think I got them at 4 wins. I am to the Raiders as Al is to Denver. I think that the Raiders are going to be a bad team, really bad team, terrible team. I just don't see. Those quarterbacks, I'm not trusting those guys at all for a 17-game season. And honestly, I love Brock Bowers. I've the last probably year and change, big fan. But I was a big fan too of Michael Mayer, who they got last year at the same position, and is also a stud. I don't know what they're going to do with these guys. I guess they're going to have a double tight end set since they're going to have just basically one receiver that they think they can trust with Devontae Adams.
They said they're going to play both. They're going to play them both a lot, and they have Jacoby Myers as the other.
I would say Jacoby Myers can play, and I think he's actually an underrated player. But still, I guess you're going to do a lot of the 2 tight end sets. But if you do that, I don't know.
I'm sure they could split Bowers wide, or in the slot.
Yeah, well, that's what I was saying. That's what I was going to say next is you could have Bowers in multiple spots. He could play various positions on the offense, but he's like game-changing, generational type player, Bowers. I think he's he could be better than Travis Kelce. I think he's to that level.
Big statement.
I wouldn't be surprised if by 2030 he's on the trajectory to being a clear-cut best tight end of maybe, I don't know about all time, but of our generation at least. He could be that guy.
So you're saying he's like the Wembanyama of tight ends?
He could be the Wembanyama of tight ends.
Wow! Look at those chops.
Yep. He could, and you also got a fun little thing that I see here for their 2nd round pick, Jackson Powers Johnson from Oregon, the center, who actually is one of the rare 3 last names.
Shout him out. All right, but you got the under, Chris.
Yeah, 4 wins I got. That's my best bet.
I got under 6 and 11. I just don't see how Chris Styles said it in the chat. I don't see how this team can do anything offensively this year. But I do really like Antonio Pierce, and him as a coach is giving me big Dan Campbell vibes. I'm really interested to see if they let him stick around, because you never know with this organization what they're going to do. But if they give Pierce the contract to stick around for 2-3 years, I'm not sure if he signed one in the off some kind of extension or anything like that. I'm interested to see if he can turn things around in Vegas with this Raiders team, because once they fired McDaniel, this was a different team under Pierce. He seems like he's a master motivator. He's obviously a very knowledgeable guy on the defensive side of the ball. So if he can get the right guy in the offensive coordinator booth and get some players, because I think that was another thing that they couldn't do in the draft. I know they were looking at Penix, and then Atlanta took him.
Penix would have been great there.
Yeah, so they end up with Bowers. They end up putting their the QB search on hold for another year. So I think this is just a franchise that this year the expectations can't be too high given the offensive, handcuffs of having nothing at quarterback, nothing at running back, nothing at wide receiver. I mean, Adams he's banged up, right? I don't know. I got this team under 6-11.
Okay. All right, let's move
Maybe
along.
they're in the Shador Sanders sweepstakes.
Possibly.
Could be. What a fit that would be. Oh boy. Dion stepped right in at OC.
All right, we have the next team is the perennial underachievers, the LA Chargers, over under 8.5. 5-12 last year. Al, you nailed it. You had them as one of the biggest disappointments last year. They finished in third or fourth place in Division 4 the past 5 years. But finally, they've gotten rid of Brandon Staley after years of mistakes. In is Jim Harbaugh. Al, let's start with you on your thoughts on the Chargers.
Thank you for giving me the props, because I was going to make sure I got the props for calling their demise last year. It's going to be a weird year, I think, as a like an outside spectator of the Chargers, because of all these guys that were Chargers forever. The Keenan Allen, Mike Williams, and Austin Eckler all of a sudden are not on the Chargers. It's going to be a little weird seeing that. They do bring in J.K. Dobbins, Gus Edwards, Will Dissly, Hayden Hurst. They got a whole bunch of new guys to fill these positions in. They drafted Joe Alt, which I really like. Guess I'm sure he's one of your boys, the tackle out of Notre Dame. I thought he was the best offensive lineman in the draft. And then they draft the wide receiver, Ladd McConkey. So look, it's going to be a new age in LA for the Chargers, for a team that never has a home field advantage, quite frankly. I still think they got to figure some things out. It sounds like we're all a little down on Justin Herbert. It's going to be a big time, prove it year for him. I got them at 8-9. I'm not sure. Is that the over or the under? So I'm not sure what the number was.
8.5 was the number. So you got the under.
All right. So I have the under at 8-9 for the Chargers.
All right, Chris, what do you got?
First of all, Harbaugh is just a rat. That guy, he's just got fleas. And I don't know if you guys saw about the situation that's happening now in Michigan too, where they're saying that he had some scandalous activity that may or may not have caused him to make a decision to leave and go to the NFL, even though he said like twice he wouldn't do it. But I got them winning 7 games ultimately. Long story short, 7 games, got them with the under. I still like Herbert. I just feel like they're one of those teams where it just always seems to be they just can't get in front of things. They just keep kind of kicking themselves in some way or another, whether it's the coach or whether it's injuries or whether it's, you name it. And so I just don't find them to be a team that, especially this year, that I think is going to compete. So yeah, I mean, and that's a ceiling for me is 7 points.
Yeah, I think it's an interesting year for Herbert, because you've seen his touchdown passes in particular have dropped the last 3 years from 38 to 25 to 20 last year. I didn't know he missed a few games last year as well. His yards, he only threw for 3,100 yards last year. But again, the eye test just seems to pop differently. Like, he looks like he's got it as a quarterback, and they just haven't put the right pieces around him, whether, again, it's Brandon Staley, or now this year he's going to have the excuses of having a ton of new weapons. Al, you mentioned the Keenan Allen, Mike Williams, Austin Eckler all being gone. They bring in McConkey and DJ Chark. There's not I wouldn't say any world beaters on the outside for him to throw to this year. So I do think he's going to get a little bit of a pass this year again if he doesn't play extremely well. But I do think we need to see him take a couple steps forward or flash that he can be that guy that we thought he'd be in his second year. I do think the offensive line's much improved. Rashawn Slater's very good. You mentioned Alt. He'll be very good as well. They should be able to run the ball. They should also be able to get after the quarterback. Joey Bosa, I know he's been injured a ton, but if he's healthy, he's one of the best edge rushers in the league. Khalil Mack's still there. They signed Bud Dupree. So they got some guys who can get after the passer. I just think it's going to take a year for the Harbaugh stuff to really kick in. I got him at 7-10. So this is my third team at 7-10 in this division this year.
I just feel like another thing too, and I don't want to keep harping on it, but I just feel like Harbaugh he's the kind of guy that brings a distraction, and like these new allegations that came up, like even today, it's at the worst time. Like, and I know that he's not coaching a collegiate team at this point, and it would probably been an even bigger distraction if he was still if he was still in Michigan. Well, I know it would have been a bigger distraction, but even still with this Chargers team, like there are going to be a lot of media and people that are going to be trying to talk to him still about different things from last year, and it's a lot. I like their draft that they had a lot. Like Al, you said about Alt and you said Seltzer McConkey. I like McConkey a lot. I do, but I don't know if he's a number one dude. I would like to see him as a 2 or a 3 on a team where he can really like thrive in that spot. I think he could be like a Julian Edelman type receiver, but I don't know if I put him as like an X as a number 1. But I don't know. Yeah, we'll see what they do here. But yeah, I don't know. The team they always have fleas to me.
I've been burned on them the last couple of years, and I'm not going to have it happen again. All right, let's go to the last team in the division, the Kansas City Chiefs. The world champions, 11.5. We all have the under. What, you have 3-4 wins, I guess we could say, right?
Well, let's start this part of the segment by reminding it. It's the annual reminder of Seltzer saying that the Kansas City Chiefs wouldn't make the playoffs 2 years ago.
2 years ago.
And
that was a lesson.
Predicted they were going to win like 6 games or something, and then they go on to win the next 2 Super Bowls.
Complete disgrace.
So hopefully you predict that the Eagles are going to win 6 games this year, but let's not get ahead of ourselves.
He probably did.
All right. So 11-6 last year. First time they haven't reached 12 wins since 2017, but they've won double-digit games 9 straight seasons. They've been to 4 of the past 5 Super Bowls, winning 3, blah, 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 blah. Regular season did have some warts last year, though. 15th in scoring, 9th in yards, after never being outside the top 6 with Patrick Mahomes. They bring in Hollywood Brown, who has already been injured, draft Xavier Worthy, to add to Kelsey and Rashee Rice, who I thought was actually really good last year. On the defensive side, Chris Jones is back. With Aaron Donald being gone, maybe the best defensive lineman in the NFL. But they do lose Willie Gay and L'Jarius Sneed. I'll start here. I've learned my lesson. I'm not going against Patrick Mahomes, Andy Reid. I mentioned I have the under on all 3 other teams in the division, so I think they're all going to underachieve a little bit. I know they did not go over the win total last year, but I got them at 13-4 this year. I just think the division's weak. Again, this team has won double-digit games the last 9 seasons and at least 12 wins since 2017 other than last year. So I'm going to go ride the numbers here. Not enough has changed for me to change my mind. In fact, offensively, I think they have a lot more weapons than they did last year. And defensively, they'll miss Sneed, but they got enough pieces out there to help cover that wart on the outside. So I got them at 13-4.
Yeah, go ahead.
Look, I was really impressed with the Chiefs last year more so than the year before, because the Chiefs have become this team where you knew they had Andy Reid, you knew they had Patrick Mahomes, you knew they had Travis Kelce. So you knew they were going to score a lot of points to beat you. And then last year, that wasn't happening. They had so many problems with their receiving core, losing Tyreek Hill, Rashee Rice not really being the guy they thought he was going to be, Marquez Valdez-Scantling not being the guy they thought he was going to be. And they had to switch the game plan. They had to change things up. And so what did they do? They start relying a little bit more on Isaiah Pacheco. They start relying on the defense. And the defense came up big for them last year. They only gave up about 17 points a game, which was a big drop from 21 plus in 2022. And then in the playoffs, they were even better. So I just feel like this is one of those teams nowadays, the Kansas City Chiefs, that they're built for the postseason, not just as a team as far as the X's and O's, but like mentally. This team just knows that they're there to win in the playoffs and win a Super Bowl and potentially become a dynasty, winning 3 in a row. Because as Adam says, that's the definition of a dynasty. You got to win 3 in a row. I do worry a little bit about the corners, them losing the corners. Trent McDuffie, I think he has to kind of step up and fill that role. Don't know if he's going to be able to. We'll see. I still think this team is one of the class of the league. But what I want to know, Chris Style, do you have your Netflix account ready for Christmas Day? Because Kansas City Chiefs are going to be one of 2 teams playing on Netflix this coming season on Christmas at Pittsburgh, which just I hate, because now this is one more streaming service that I got to keep track of if I want to watch football on any given day.
Well, that's a whole nother segment in itself with the keeping up with the apps. But for Trent McDuffie, Al, I think is a stud, man. You think that?
No, I said he's got to step up, because now everyone else is gone. So I think he's good too. I'm just saying he's got to prove it.
Yeah, I mean, and there's guys too like Karlaftis, who they just drafted a couple years back. That's got to, it's time now at this point to start flexing his wings, so to speak. And obviously with Chris Jones still there, I don't think there is a doubt, Seltzer, he is the best D tackle in football at this point in time. But Jalen Carter coming, but that's another conversation for another day. I think the 12 wins is the ceiling for the Chiefs this year. There's a world where they open up with two boss opponents. They open up with Baltimore and Cincinnati. Now they're both in their backyard. They're both at Arrowhead or wherever they call it these days. But the thing is, every team when they play the Chiefs, that's their Super Bowl. They're getting the best out of every single team, every game, especially those kind of teams that know they're going to see them at the end. So to see them in the beginning is going to be interesting. Now, Kansas City did lose last year in that first game to Detroit. I can't imagine Mahomes and Andy and Kelsey and those guys doing that again. I can't imagine that. So I don't think they'll lose the first few games, but those are two big games off the bat for them. And then they go to San Francisco at one point this year. They go to Buffalo at one point this year. They play the Texans later on at the end of the year at Cleveland. They got some nice games. So I think the 11-6 last year, I got him at 12 this year. I think that's the top for me for that team. One more thing too, the one thing that scares me in terms of if they underachieve that number, it's because of, ironically, I think it could be because of their offense. They had times last year where we were like, if they didn't have Mahomes, this team would be just a joke and this and that. And right now, I mean, they drafted Xavier Worthy, who's about 5'10", $160 soaking wet, already banged up. Marquise Brown is not much bigger than that, already banged up. Rashee Rice has problems with the police. All right, he's already dealing with some issues. So you got Kelsey, who's going to be there, but he's older. He's a little longer in the tooth now. So there's a world where that offense could be an issue. There's also a world where they could be explosive. I mean, that speed that they have is ridiculous. So if they can stay healthy, we'll see. But I tend to think that at best 12 wins.
You're never going to catch me sleeping on a team with Patrick Mahomes on it ever. As long as he's on the Chiefs.
Well, and the other thing too, Al, if something happens to Mahomes, God forbid, you got Carson Wentz ready to roll.
I was waiting to see who was going to say it.
You got Carson ready to go.
I got 12 wins also. I don't know if I said it.
All right, so I had 13. That'll be my best bet is the Chiefs over. All right, let's move into segment 3 tonight. One of our favorites to do is to put together combined lists because the chaos always seems to ensue. So tonight we're talking fantasy football and we're talking fantasy wide receivers. And if you haven't joined us before, again, I'll give the prelim is we are not giving you the top 10 wide receivers to draft as in your fantasy rankings. We are trying to predict who will be the top 10 at the end of the year. So again, some of these guys we wouldn't draft because of different ceilings and floors. But just as a point of reference, here are the top 10 receivers, half-point PPR from last year. Number 1 was CeeDee Lamb. Number 2 was Tyreek Hill. Number 3 was Amon-Ra St. Brown. Number 4, Puka Nacua, who nobody saw coming. Number 5, A.J. Brown. Number 6, DJ Moore, who we ridiculed guest on when we put him on the list last year. Number 7, Mike Evans. Number 8, Keenan Allen. Number 9, Nico Collins. And number 10, Stephon Diggs. That was your top 10 last year. So, again, we're trying to guess those 10 names that we'll be talking about next year. And the way that we're going to do this, I pre-picked an order here on randomizer or random.org. Al, you're going to go first. Chris, or I'm going to go second. Chris, you're going to go third. And we're going to put together a combined list.
What's up with the random.org shout out?
I don't know. It was sitting right up there. At first, I said I picked the order. I wanted the people to know that I'm using something out there that is generating it for me.
All right.
You know what it is.
All right. So, as Adam explained, we're going to go around the horn here. So it's always an interesting strategy because you have guys that you want to get in. You have guys who are just going to sneak in. I love these earlier picks because these are the ones where we have guys that are fringe and you got to pick which ones do I want in because I don't think that the other two guys are going to put them in. I'm going to start things off with a rookie. And it's a guy whose jersey you can't buy right now because he hasn't signed a contract with like the NFLPA or something to sign to sell his jersey. Guest boy Marvin Harrison Jr. I'm gonna throw him in at 10 only because I don't think he can get much higher than like the 7-8 range. So if one of you guys weren't going to take him, I would be afraid that he wouldn't make the top 10. Look, I think he has all the talent in the world. If Kyler Murray is playing that street yard ball and he has the opportunity to just run around and throw something up to him, I don't know who else is going to be making any noise on that Arizona Cardinals team offensively. So I like Harrison's talent a lot. I'm a sucker for rookie wide receivers when it comes to fantasy football. Always have been, probably always will be. So I'll take Harrison Jr. at number 10.
Now his usage rate is going to be through the roof.
It has to be, right?
Yeah, through the roof.
And that team should be losing a lot, so they should be throwing the ball around.
Yeah.
So it should be a big year for Harrison Jr. All right, so you have him at number 10. I will go next to number 9. I remember last week when we did the running backs, Chris, I gave you one of my most boring picks was James Conner in my top 10. I'm going to give you another extremely boring pick here at number 9. But if you can get Mike Evans as your wide receiver number 2 in fantasy football, I would highly recommend it. You go on his Pro Football Reference page. He's the only receiver in NFL history to have 10 straight 1,000-yard seasons. He's going to go over 100 career touchdowns this year. He has scored 13-plus touchdowns in 3 of the last 4 seasons. If anything, he is Mr. Consistency. He has Baker Mayfield throwing him the ball again this year. Wasn't a problem last year, as, again, he finished with 1,255 yards and 13 touchdowns. For the most part, he stays healthy. He has not really been hurt for most of his career. You can go a lot worse than drafting Mike Evans in your fantasy football team.
That is the epitome of a boring pick, but it's everything is spot on. I can't argue it. I would never take him.
He didn't make my top 10, but he'd probably be like 13 or 14. I mean, he's still got some tread, but I don't know if he cracks top 10. He still got Godwin on the other side. Still has Baker as his Q, who's been decent, but he's not an elite quarterback.
None of that has seemed to ever matter for him, though.
And tread doesn't
he's
really
great.
matter.
He's definitely a Hall of Fame guy.
He's not a speed-based receiver.
No.
He's just
but he also was getting a little bit longer in the tooth, too, though.
He's a
30 years old.
High floor, low ceiling guy, I feel like.
70 to 80 catches, 1,300 yards, 10 touchdowns.
I don't think that's top 10 anymore.
I mean, he was number 7 last year, so.
But I mean, if you there's guys that we got coming up here that's if they got that amount of receptions and touchdowns, to be a disappointment.
All right, well let's hear who you got.
So I'm gonna. Oh, man, I hate this. I love it, but I hate it. All right, so at 8, I'm gonna go with, because there's a guy that I think if I don't say it now, he's not gonna make the list here. But there's another guy who I think will be too high if I don't take him here, if that makes sense. I'm going to go with my gut, and I'm going to say A.J. Brown.
Well, I had him higher.
I'm going to say A.J. Brown at 8, and the reason being is there's just so many dudes on this offense.
Mm-hmm.
And they just added a dude, and they got a new offensive coordinator. And is he going to be we got to see who gets hot with this guy. We got to see what the usage is going to be with Saquon, all those kind of things. And Devontae's a stud too. And I think Devontae might be the most underrated receiver in football. All summer we've heard about this guy's route running continues to get better and better. His hands are better and better. And he's going to dent AJ's numbers a little bit. Not to say that A.J. Brown's not going to have a huge year. I think he will. But I think Devontae will too. I think Saquon will too. I think Jalen will too. And just not enough football to go around for all those guys. So I think it's going to neutralize them to not reach all their maxes. but still be a hell of a good season for all of them, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I think that's my one concern is that the Mal's defeat. I had that on my list as well. We'll all share our individual rankings when it's over, but I had AJ a little bit higher. All right, Al, back to you for number 7.
I guess this list now at this point is like it's going to probably be a little boring from here on out. I think there's clearly guys that we have to have here. There's a name I'm thinking of throwing in there because this would be the spot to have. It can't be higher than this, but I'm not going to. I'm going to go Debo. I've got Debo at 7, especially if all this stuff with Ayuk, it becomes one less mouth to feed in the San Francisco offense. Excuse me. Last season, Debo had 7 touchdowns receiving, 5 rushing. So it's those rushing touchdowns that I think put Debo over the hump. They find a way to use him. And I'm going to be honest with you, maybe I'm falling in love a little bit because of receivers on Netflix. I'm going to see him on there. So that could be part of the problem as well. He gets a lot of red zone looks, again, both receiving and rushing. So I'll take Debo at 7 here. I would have had him under AJ, though.
Okay, yeah, I had Debo on my list, but I thought he was going to get knocked off. All right, so it goes to me at number 6. I have 6 guys I feel like I have to get on this list.
Somebody cook, man. Somebody mix the pot up.
It's hard with receivers because receivers are way more predictable than.
Yeah.
I don't know right now, man. There's a lot of dudes.
All right, I'll mix it up. I'll throw guest boy on here. I'll throw DJ Moore.
Nah.
You don't think DJ Moore?
I wasn't the guy I wanted.
DJ Moore, 96 catches last year, 1,400 yards, and no quarterback. I was very bullish on what I saw from Caleb Williams the other night. I was bullish on him in college. I originally thought Keenan Allen was going to be the guy I put on this list because sometimes you always lean rookie quarterback, safety valve, whether it's a tight end of that nature. But I read some things about Keenan Allen today that I didn't really like, that he was about 230 pounds at this point.
Yeah, Keenan Allen's got Miles Austin this year written all over him.
And he's got some chronic leg injuries as well.
Yeah.
Listen, DJ Moore is electric. And if Caleb Williams is anything like he's supposed to be, he's going to have a monster year. He had 1,400 yards last year. And who was throwing the ball in Chicago last year? I legitimately can't remember who was throwing the ball.
It was Al's boy who was throwing the ball.
Jay Fields.
He was slinging it.
Jay Fields.
He's going to get cut.
All right, I got DJ Moore, which means one of my big 6 guys is going to get left off this board, which is going to be tough to see.
So I think, and we may or may not get more on more later on in the show, but you didn't mention Rome Odunze, who they just drafted high with the 9th pick, who's going to be a stud.
We'll see.
And you also have Cole Kmet, another year older, that's going to get some balls. You also have DeAndre Swift, who can catch some balls.
Didn't you learn your lesson that DeAndre Swift stinks last year?
He doesn't stink, but he's not Saquon, but he can do some things.
Trash.
He wasn't trash. He was good for the first how many weeks of the year last year until everybody started to stink.
All right, here's what your number 5.
All right. I'll mix it up. I'm going to go with my boy Puka.
Oh, boy. Uh-oh.
Here's the deal with Puka. He did that damage last year as a rookie. And typically your rookie year is when, you only can grow from that. And so if that holds for my man, he's going to be a super stud. He's not the flashiest guy, not the fastest guy. He's not the strongest guy. He just gets it done. And if you got a guy who had 105 catches for 1,500 yards, 6 touchdowns as a rookie, I don't know what the ceiling is. So I'm going to ride him again this year. And I'm going to put him, especially another year with Cooper Kupp. He's getting older. His body's starting to break down a little bit, it seems like, which I hate to say because he's one of my favorite players, but I think that he's on the downside at this point. We know Stafford likes to sling it around. And if Cup's not going to be the number one, you could argue right now Puka's already the number one. And in that offense, the number one receiver can do damage. So I'm going to ride him at 5.
I just worry about the touchdowns. I think he'll be
That's fair.
Consistent with his receptions and his yardage will be there. I just don't know if he has the nose for the end zone, like you mentioned, the big numbers that are needed to get into these top tier slots. All right, back to Al, and this means somebody's getting left out.
Someone's getting left out. Guess you screwed it up again.
Did not.
You screwed it up again,
Nope.
dude. All right, I'm gonna take the guy that I actually have in 4 in my rankings. So this will be the 4th ranked wide receiver on our list. He was tied for 2nd in receptions last season. He was 5th in targets. I'm a big targets guy. He was 3rd in yards. He was 4th in touchdowns. He's also up there in red zone targets. He was 4th in red zone targets. It's Amon-Ra St. Brown.
Yeah, you're big on the receiver show, huh?
Super steady. Well, maybe not, because one guy on that show might not make the friggin' list.
No, he will.
All right, well then, I don't know who's getting left off at this point. But Amon-Ra St. Brown, I'm a little late to the party with the Lions. I thought they were getting a little bit too overhyped last season, but I'm on board this year. I know Gibbs. He just got an injury, right? He just suffered an
hamstring.
Yeah, so that stinks. But I really like this team. I think they're primed to make another leap in a conference that might be a little ripe for the picking this year, because I'm a big believer in the Super Bowl loser hangover. As good as San Francisco is as far as the roster goes. So I think the Lions are going to make a jump, and Amon-Ra St. Brown I wouldn't be surprised if he's the number 1 receiver by the end of the season.
I have him as my number 1.
Ooh. I'll do mine. I'll tell you where I have him a little bit later when we reveal, but we will see. All right, I'm going to make sure my guy gets on the list here, Al. I'm going to put Justin Jefferson at 4.
3.
Oh, 3. I'm sorry. I'm going to put Justin Jefferson at 3. Quarterback. There's quarterback questions galore. Obviously, J.J. McCarthy just had meniscus surgery today, leading us to believe Sam Darnold's going to be the guy there. I don't think it matters. Justin Jefferson, when I looked at his stats from last year, he only played 9.5 games last year and had 1,100 yards. The guy is unguardable. He has some of the best hands in football. I really don't think it matters who's throwing you the ball. And I think sometimes when you have these lower-level quarterbacks, these Darnolds and J.J. McCarthy, if and when he comes back this year, they tend to force the ball to some of these number 1 guys because of how good they are. So, listen, I don't think you're going to see the number 1 ranked fantasy season like we've seen in the past for Justin Jefferson. But to have 1,100 yards in 9.5 games when you played 4 with no quarterback last year. They were throwing Nick Mullins, and they had that other rookie out there last year. Who was the other rookie who played for the Vikings last year?
I couldn't even tell you.
Well, they had Dobbs. Then wasn't Dobbs playing for him?
Dobbs was there early in the year, but then Jefferson got hurt. And then when he came back, Dobbs was on the Cardinal, or no, he was somewhere else. I'll look it up. Hold on. But go ahead. So I got Jefferson at 3.
Yeah,
Jaron Hall.
Jaron Hall. That's who was throwing the ball to him at the end of the year. Come on, man.
You could have gave me till midnight. I wouldn't have never got that.
No, never. All right, so we have 2 spots left, and you 2 guys. There's 3 names out there.
Yeah, it's real quick. I want to say it's hard to imagine the world where Jefferson's not number 1. He's still, in my opinion, the best receiver in football. Now, as far as fantasy wise, he might not be number 1, but I'm going to stir the pot again here.
No, come on, dude. The pot is done. It's stirred up.
Already. Listen, hold on a second. You already told me. You already told me how I hit with Moore last year.
Oh boy.
I'm about to hit with Puka, who by the way, target man, had 160 targets last year as a rookie.
Target man.
All right. That's number 2. Number 3, I'm going to give you my number 2 this year, who's going to blow up after last year being 4th in the league in targets with 168. That's Garrett Wilson.
Oh, God damn.
I think Garrett Wilson is going to have a mega year this year with Aaron Rodgers. His usage rate, I think, it's going to be a 2-man show. It's going to be Breece Hall, and it's going to be Garrett Wilson. And Aaron Rodgers is going to be the guy that's going to be, unlike other years where they've had the Mike Whites of the world and this guy and that guy, Aaron Rodgers, barring any issues with health, if he's there a full season, Garrett Wilson will be maybe even fight for number 1 this year as the WR1 this year. That's how confident I am in him this year with that team, with that quarterback. He had 95 catches, 1,000 yards last year with nobody. You give him a quarterback now, it's going to be lights out. And this exercise, for the record, that's why I said I love it, but I hate it. There's a lot of guys that are not going to be on this list that should be on this list, but because of where we go, so they get screwed up. But I'm not leaving my man off because that's how confident I am that I'm going to hit on Garrett Wilson.
All right.
And that's your boy, Seltzer. OSU.
Yeah, no, listen. I have Wilson in my top 10 here. And again, we'll do all of our individual lists later. But we have now 3 names out. You're going to pick one. Who you want is your number 1. And 2 guys are getting left off. So
we know
pressure's on. Usually the first spot's an easy spot. Now you got all the pressure.
Yeah, you guess. Put the screws to me here. The pot is running full now. The pot is overflowing.
Oh, it's boiling.
So everybody knows we have the top. We have CeeDee Lamb, Tyreek Hill, and Jamar Chase. I'm going to eliminate 2 guys. I'm going to do one by one. I'm going to eliminate Jamar Chase first. I'm going to eliminate Jamar Chase not because I don't think he's a top potentially 1 fantasy wide receiver. It's because of the uncertainty with Joe Burrow's injury concerns and being able to stay on the field and his health. He finished outside of the top 10 last season in fantasy rankings, Jamar Chase. So I'm gonna eliminate him because you have to eliminate 2 people here. I'm gonna eliminate CeeDee Lamb because he's a Dallas Cowboy and screw him. And he's not in camp. I was gonna say he's not in camp yet. So LOL. That's it. We're moving on from CeeDee Lamb. There's only one wide receiver in the league, in my opinion, right now, that no matter where on the field he touches the ball, he has the potential to take it to the house for 6, and that's Tyreek Hill. This guy has had over 1,700 yards in each of the last 2 seasons. He is a real threat to eclipse the 2,000-yard mark, I think, as a wide receiver. Knowing how flashy of a guy he is, how cocky of a guy he is, he's the kind of guy whose name never really gets brought up there with the JJs and the Jamars and the CDs. I think he's going for that 2,000 yards. And I think the only thing that's been holding him back is his counterpart on the other side of the field, Jalen Waddle, because he's also a very talented receiver, and he commands, 1,000 yards a season. So if you're asking me to take one of those 3 guys, I'm taking Tyreek, and he's my number 1.
All right. Now, I don't know if any of us were writing down these lists, but let's go through it again, and we'll just go. Al, who'd you have at 10?
I got the list.
All right, go ahead, Al.
All right, so it's from 10 to 1. It's Marvin Harrison Jr., Mike Evans, A.J. Brown, Deebo Samuel, DJ Moore, Puka Nacua, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Justin Jefferson, Garrett Wilson, and Tyreek Hill.
Listen, we've messed up a lot of lists, but that was as messed up as it gets. And listen, that's part of the exercise, though.
But you know what, though? Right now it sounds messed up. You never know.
You never know.
Because at the end of the season, nobody in the beginning of the season was name dropping Puka Nacua. Nobody was name dropping Nico Collins, and they both ended up in the top 10.
Right. And I remember last year, Chris, you and I got into it because we didn't have a spot for Devontae Adams. And guess what? Devontae Adams didn't make it.
Are we gonna? Do you have a sleeper and a bust for this list, or
I can get one quickly? We forgot to do that for running backs. Give me a second. Why don't you do yours?
I'll say I'll do mine while you're getting it together. So what do you want first, the sleeper or the bust?
Whichever. Hit us with both.
All right. So my bust is actually DJ Moore.
Ooh.
This year, I think there's a lot of chefs in the kitchen. I think that with Caleb, and I think Caleb Williams is good. I think he will be good. But he's still a rookie. We'll see how that plays out his first year. Having Keenan Allen potentially steal targets is a big thing. And I think also, again, having a guy like Rome Odunze on the other side, he's going to be a guy that they are going to focus on a lot as well. Now, those are the future, right? Odunze and DJ are the future for the Bears as far as the receiving core is concerned. Keenan's not going to play into that. But this year, he's definitely going to still be able to steal not steal, but he's going to be able to take targets away from both of those two. And so with him combined with Kmet, this year it's not a one-man gang like it was as much last year with the Bears offense. And so that's why I have him. Not that he's going to have a bad year. I just don't think he'll be in the top 10, maybe not even top 15 this season with him fantasy wise.
Okay, hit us with your sleeper then.
My sleeper is a guy that I feel like we never talk about, and maybe it's because he's kind of buried down there in New Orleans, but I think Chris Olave is a sleeper this year. Chris Olave had a 25% target share, 40% air yard share last year, so he's getting a lot of opportunities. He did have 87 catches, 1,100 yards, but the touchdowns was the issue. He only had 5 touchdowns. So we'll see how that plays out. But he is in that wheelhouse of, I always say, like for a skilled player in the NFL, between years like 2 and 3 and 4, you're going to know what you got. And so for Olave, he's right in the heart of that. I think this could be a big blow-up year for him.
Okay, I like Olave. I always have. But you know how I feel. I do think Derek Carr, as much as I bash him, he does tend to latch on to certain receivers.
And that's another thing I was exactly. Yep.
All right, I'll give you quickly as I look through Fantasy Pros just to see where the rankings are. I'll give you my sleeper is currently the guy ranked wide receiver 28 on this list, and that's Zay Flowers. Second-year wide receiver, Baltimore. Last year as a rookie, 77 catches, almost 900 yards, 5 touchdowns. Had a really good playoff game or playoffs with 156 yards and a touchdown as well. I think he's a guy that they're going to try and get the ball to a lot. Mark Andrews coming off an injury. Derrick Henry, I'm not sure how the running game is going to pan out for them, especially the short passing game. You know, Henry's not a great catch receiver of the ball. I just think Flowers can break out in his second year, and I wouldn't be surprised to see him finish, I would say, between wide receiver 10 and wide receiver 20 this year. And my bust, I'm going to go with wide receiver 14 on Fantasy Pros, and that's Brandon Ayuk. And we talked about him briefly. There's a lot of baggage that's going on right now. Who is he going to play for, first and foremost?
Who does he want to play for?
Right. I think the report today was that Pittsburgh had finally gained some traction for him. Yeah. I think if he leaves San Francisco, he's going to be shocked at how good of a system that is and how that system with Kyle Shanahan really, you know, he's getting open because a lot of the receivers. I think he's really good. But to join a new team in the end of August and expect to be an impact wide receiver or wide receiver, basically a back-end wide receiver 1 if you're in a 12-team league, I don't see it. And if he comes back to San Francisco, you know, is he going to be happy? What's the deal going to be like? You know, are they building chemistry otherwise? Yeah, you got Debo, you got McCaffrey, you got Kittle, you got they drafted the other kid as well. I just think there's a lot of mouths to feed. And I think last year may have been the best we're going to see from Brandon Ayuk in his San Francisco uniform. I just think it may be a wash year for him.
Well, I think they drafted Pearsall to be the new Ayuk.
Right. Al, you have them or no?
Yeah, I'm going to give you three sleepers here. All right. Ooh. I'm going to give you the first sleeper is not that much of a sleeper. Drake London. I feel like that's a guest guy.
He's in my top 10 now.
He's in my top 10 as well. Yeah. The only reason why I don't think he's that deep of a sleeper is because he's currently projected to be in the top 20, top 15 in receivers. So unless he makes that jump to the top 10, he's really not a sleeper, to be honest. But with Kirk Cousins going down there to Atlanta, they're playing a dome. They have a lot of weapons on offense. I trust Cousins to get him the ball more so than we keep forgetting quarterbacks' names on this episode. Desmond Ridder. So I think Drake London can make a jump this year. I talked a lot about my love for the Colts. I think Michael Pittman Jr. can make a jump as well. He had over 100 receptions, over 1,100 yards last year. The touchdowns weren't there, but the quarterback wasn't there. So I think he can make a jump. He's currently projected in like the top 25-ish of receivers in fantasy. And then the last guy I think is a guy that I mentioned earlier. I think Ladd McConkey is a deep sleeper. I think he's a deep sleeper because he's down in like the 50s. So, you know, a guy that could potentially put together I'm not saying he's going to be this year's Puka, but from where you could potentially get him in your draft if he gets drafted at all, I think he's a guy you can stash on your bench that could potentially be the receiver of a lot of targets that the Keenan Allen and the Mike Williams and the Austin Eckler take with them to their new destinations. So those are 3 sleepers for you.
All right. So there you have it. All right, let's quickly go through all of our list. I'll jump on mine quickly. A lot of the guys on my list we already talked about, so I don't have to go through them. I have Debo at 10, Mike Evans at 9, DJ Moore at 8, Garrett Wilson at 7, CeeDee Lamb at 6, A.J. Brown at 5, Jamar Chase at 4, Justin Jefferson at 3, Amon-Ra St. Brown at 2, and Tyreek Hill at 1.
You had CeeDee Lamb at 6?
I had CeeDee Lamb at 6.
Is that because of the contract?
Yeah, I just again, there's the guys above them are Brown, Chase, Jefferson, St. Brown, and Hill. I worry about Dallas as a whole this year. I worry about Dak not getting paid. I worry about CeeDee Lamb's contract. When's he going to report? I also worry about the comments from Jerry Jones, what's going on Twitter with Micah Parsons, that whole thing. And at the end of the day, I think those 6 guys are probably in a tier by themselves. And I think you can order them any way you really want. And I just knock CeeDee down to the bottom of that tier based on those things.
Parsons is going to be an Eagle next year. Watch.
Maybe. All right, hit me with your 10.
All right, 10-1. I got DJ Moore at 10. I got Drake London at 9. Marvin Harrison Jr. at 8. Debo at 7. Jamar Chase at 6. A.J. Brown at 5. Amon-Ra St. Brown at 4. CeeDee Lamb at 3. Justin Jefferson at 2. And Tyreek Hill at 1.
So we're closer around the top, Al. So I got Drake London at 10. A.J. Brown at 9. Got Tyreek Hill at 8. Nico Collins at 7. Puka at 6. Jamar Chase 5. Garrett Wilson 4. Justin Jefferson 3. CeeDee at 2. And Amon-Ra at 1.
So you guys had CeeDee in the top 5. I had him at 6, and we couldn't get him on the list.
Yeah,
He's out.
He's out.
Yeah.
And you know what? If you got a problem with it, who cares?
Yeah. Listen, do
your own
try it
list.
yourself if you can, if you think it's so hard. Not an easy list. But listen, I had a blast talking fantasy with you guys. Hopefully, we will have some more optimism in segment 1 next week. But until then, we're going to drop that beat.